Let's pause for a moment of prayer. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for your goodness towards us and your love towards us. Father, we thank you, Lord, that you are indeed a great God to us. And Father, as we get into your word this evening, Father, we ask that you speak to each one of us. And as always, our commitment is not to remain merely hearers of your word, but instead be doers of your word as well. These things we pray in your precious name. Amen. You know, we are, like most of the world around us, I guess, weeks into the lockdown process. And of course, many of us are getting a bit impatient, right? Many of us are beginning to long for the way things used to be. And perhaps they never will be like that. Kind of watching television this week recently, and many of the cities in the United States are daily, the level of progress, and not progress, but unrest and is increasing. There are demonstrations because people want to get back to work. And one lady said that something to the effect that she would rather die from COVID virus infection than live the way that she's living right now. And so that kind of speaks to the level of discomfort that many are facing around the world and even in our country, really. President Trump said that deciding when to open the country back up is probably the greatest decision in his life, from his business life as well as his political life. And of course, our leaders have to make that same decision. Are we going to give in to the financial discomforts, the physical discomforts, the way that many of the people in this country feel, or are they going to make the right decision? Are they going to complete the process? Or are they going to short-circuit the process because there are too many pressures? As I look at the lives of successful men and women all over the world down through time, one of the things that I've discovered is that in spite of the challenges, in spite of the pressure, in spite of the hardships, one quality that virtually all of them possess down to a man is this. Is that they are able to complete the process. They are able to finish the cause no matter what. You know, there are many laws that are applicable to all areas of life, be it religion, be it politics, be it business, in our personal lives. And this is one of those laws that is very applicable. You got to be able to finish what you start. You have to be able to complete the process. We just came out of the Easter season and we were remembering the fact that Jesus came, he suffered, and he died for us. And we talk about the fact that he ministered on this earth for about 3 years or so. And nearing the end of the time, he was making his way towards Jerusalem. The disciples were becoming very concerned. They understood that times were changing, that the religious leaders were pretty upset, and they urged him not to go. But he was determined to complete what he started. And he made his way towards Jerusalem as you know, he was captured and taken to trial. The Bible tells us that he could have called 12 legions of angels to set him free, but he didn't. He was determined to complete what he started. During the trial process, the religious leaders called some false witnesses. They were having some issues. And then he finally moved the process on by saying, yes, I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. And as you know, he was convicted, he was beaten, he was crucified on the cross. And remember those words that he said? He didn't say that I'm half done. He said, it is finished. He completed what he came here to do. The Apostle Paul in Philippians, where he was trying to encourage some of the saints, from time to time we have issues, we have troubles, things don't always go the way that we plan. And in trying to encourage them, here's what he said. He said, being confident of this very thing, that the same Jesus who begun the work in you, he is able to complete it. That is where your confidence has to lay. He is able to finish. He is able to complete what he started. And the truth is that he holds us that same standard. I want you to turn to Luke chapter 14. We're going to read from verses 25 to 34. Luke 14, 25 to 34, it says, Now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. We're talking about commitment. We're talking about completing and finishing. For which of you intended to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king goes to make war against another king, does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. Salt is good. But if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill. But men throw it out. He who hears to hear, let him hear. You see, Jesus has left a great work for us to do. We are men and women of purpose. There are things that are set before us for us to accomplish in our time, just like he did in his time. But you know what? We're not going to be able to accomplish those things unless we commit to completing, unless we commit to finishing. Especially in these times, all of us, I believe, in some way or another, are experiencing some challenges. I shared with my wife the other day that pretty much from around the time my last daughter was born, from 2004 up until now, we have been in Grand Bahama faced with challenge after challenge after challenge. Francis and Jane, there are a few other storms there in between, the recession, Matthew, now Dorian, and now this COVID, and now we're going back into hurricane season. And were it not for the ability to face challenges and to look the challenges in their face and to be determined to complete, many of us would have given up a long time ago. Many have left our shores. Many have gone to Nassau and other parts of the world. Why? Because the battle was too strong. They were not committed enough to stay and to persevere and to press and to push on. Many of us are experiencing challenges in our personal life, perhaps in our marriages and our relationships with our kids. And you know what? If things get really, really, really tough, it is your commitment to finish and to complete what you started. It's going to enable you to win out. You know, sometimes kids can be very difficult. They can. And if you're not more determined than they, where would they end up? Many of us are involved in our education, our high school or college. And you know what? College and high school, they're not a piece of cake, oftentimes. And many have left and gone off to college, and after a year or 2 or 3 returned home because we couldn't cut it. We couldn't face the challenges. We weren't determined enough to push through and press on and complete what we started. But the ability to face those challenges and complete them is absolutely key in this life. Just check around you. Any person that has attained any substantial goal in life, they have that ability to complete, to face the challenges and to push on despite of those challenges. As you know, the ESPN has a special on concerning Michael Jordan and the Bulls called The Last Dance. And there have been many great basketball players down through the ages, and there are many that play today. There are many that I consider to be at least as talented as Michael Jordan. LeBron James and many others. They can jump as high and they can shoot as well and so forth and so on. But here's what I think distinguishes Michael Jordan from everybody else. Is his ability to lock on to a goal and to pursue them and to push and to face the disappointments and to face the trials, but to be determined nevertheless to come through and to win no matter the cost. The story is told that he was from a small town, and there was a lot of racism in the town. And he and his family realized that, you know what, to be able to really make it in life, we have to escape the confines of this small town and to move on. And for him, it was his athletic ability. He saw his athletic ability, especially his basketball playing skills, as being the ticket out of what he was experiencing in life at the time. The story goes on to say that he tried out for his basketball team in his sophomore year, I think it was, and he was cut. Everybody knows the story, right? And he went home, and he was very disappointed, not simply because he was cut, right? Because it meant more to him than that. It meant that, you know what? His ability to leave his circumstance was being threatened. And he went home and he cried, and his mother cried with him. And she said, you know what? Just continue to prepare yourself. And prepare himself, he did. And as you know, the next year he made the team, and by the time he finished high school, he was one of the most highly recruited basketball players from the high school system. And he went on to North Carolina, and he told one of the coaches that he wants to be the best basketball player ever. And the coach asked him to do some, run some routes and do some things, and Michael said, nobody else is doing it. He said to Michael, I thought you said you wanted to be the best ever. And from that day, Michael promised him that he would never be outworked by anyone. And that was the thing that was one of the things that made him as good as he was. He was prepared to work as he entered the pros, he really, really developed his game in all aspects. You know, today you have a lot of players who are known as great three-point shooters and great post-up men and so forth and so on. Michael determined to be proficient at every aspect of the game. So you know him to be a great shooter, he could put up a lot of points, and he has the most points ever in terms of points per game for his career. But he also worked on the defensive side of the ball. He was Defensive Player of the Year many times. He made the defensive team many times. He led the league in steals and so forth and so on. What I'm saying is that he had a goal. He had a vision for his life. He knew the way that he wanted his life to play out. He promised when he went to Chicago that they would have a championship before he left. And he did everything in terms of developing his game that he could possibly do to make that happen. But not only that, he caused the whole team to adopt his mindset. Anyone who wasn't able to live up to that standard was eliminated. And the success of the team happened as a result of him not only living up to that for himself, but also to cause his teammates to live up to that same standard. I'll never forget the last game of the second three-peat that they had. They were down by, I think, about 3 points. They were in possession. The other team was in possession. They were in possession of the ball. Michael drove the lane and he made a layup. They were now down by 1 point. But the other team had the ball. He stole the ball from one of the leaders on the other team, drove down, and he hit that last shot. And of course, all pandemonium broke out, and Phil Jackson came to him and he was congratulating him, and he was hugging, and he was saying, "Oh, that was incredible, Michael." And everybody was singing his praises. But as I watched it, I've seen this scene play out many times, but as I watched it on Monday afternoon, they did a close-up and they wrote exactly what Michael was saying. And when all of that joy was going on, Michael was saying to his coach, I had faith. I had faith. Almost like a child talking to his parent. But he understood that completing what he started was of the utmost importance. Paul, as he was serving in prison for his second term, and as his days were being numbered, he was about to be executed at any time, he wrote to Timothy. And he tried to encourage Timothy to come and visit him one last time. It's not known whether Timothy was ever able to get there before he was killed. All of the other saints had left him and they had deserted him because they were afraid of the persecution that they would have. So as he was in prison, in the cold, damp prison, facing death, he penned these words to Timothy. He said, I have fought a good fight. Are we fighting today? Or are we just going along with the flow? Or has the struggles of life defeated us and we are a mere shell of what God wanted us to really be? Like Moses, after fleeing Egypt, have we forgotten the purposes that God created us for? He said, I have fought a good fight. Then he says something else. He says, I have finished my course. How many of us would like to be able to say that as you look back over our lives and we make an honest evaluation? A lot of times when it comes to our own performances, we are a bit biased. We often give ourselves more credit than we really deserve, right? But how much of us, as we look back over our lives and saw the challenges that we faced and had a good understanding of what it was that God has called us to do, how many of us can say, I have finished my course? As a result of that, he said, henceforth there is laid waiting for me a crown of righteousness, not to me only, but to all of those who love his appearing. The truth is, these days are not for the faint of heart. They're not. They're hard, they're challenging, they test our mettle, they bring out the best that is in us. They cause us to dig deep and they cause us to persevere if we want to be successful. To make it through this COVID season, hurricane season to come, and whatever challenges it is that God places before us, and there may be more. I heard they were talking about the fact that they anticipate an even worse COVID season come next winter. Whatever the challenge, whatever the race that God has called us to run, whether we are by ourselves or whether we are with others, whatever the path that God has chosen for us, I encourage you to be men and women who understand the importance of completing what you start. You know, Winston Churchill was one of perhaps the greatest wartime prime minister ever. And as this city, London, was being bombed night after night after night. Could you imagine that? You go to bed, you don't know whether you're going to wake up the next morning because the planes fly over every single night and they just bomb indiscriminately. It could be you, right? And every day after the bombings, you would visit those areas that were bombed and destroyed, and the people whose lives were devastated, and he tried to encourage them and let them know not to give up. As a matter of fact, his mantra was never, ever give up. Ever. But as we face the challenges that come across our path in the next few weeks and the next few months, I urge you to take the mindset of one who is going to complete, one who's going to finish what they start. Because you know what? If you're going to be easily distracted, forget about it. If you're going to give up the moment things get a little bit harder, forget about it. If you're so concerned about the opinions of others that you let them discourage you anytime they feel like it, success in this season is not for you. It's not going to happen. But I encourage you to attack your issues and the challenges that you face with all faith. I encourage you to, like Winston Churchill, have that never give up attitude. Be like Paul and Jesus, who were finishers at all costs. It cost them their lives by the way. And we give up from a mere minor discomfort. But to be winners, to achieve success in this season. Other seasons are different, mind you, right? Before 2004, so things were going well for many people. Success was coming very, very easily. These are those days. They're going to require that we become real men and real women of faith. That we work hard. That we push. That we believe. That we never accept defeat. That's what success in this season is going to require from us. These times are not for the faint of heart. But for warriors. Men and women who aren't scared to fight. Men and women who aren't easily discouraged. Who are not going to be dissuaded from the goals that they have set for themselves. That's what success is going to require in this season. My challenge to you is to be like Jesus, to be like Paul. And if you're a sports fan in this aspect, to be like Mike. To work hard, to believe with all of your heart, and to never give up until you achieve the success that you've set for yourself. Is it going to be easy? No, as a matter of fact, it's guaranteed to be hard. But you know, this is a season that you were born for. God made you and placed you in this environment for such a time as this. Before God formed you in the womb, He ordained you to be whatever He's called you to be. And because of that, you and I are more than conquerors. That's in our DNA. It's in our genes. So I encourage you to continue to fight, to continue to have faith in your God who had faith enough to place you here. And to continue to believe that your God is able to fight your battles on your behalf. But you just need to have the courage, the faith, to trust in it. These are truly the days of Elijah. I encourage you to believe the Word of God with all of your heart and trust Him to bring you through. Please stand to your feet. Father in heaven, we just thank you, Lord, for entrusting us with this season. Lord, we understand, Lord, that you placed us on this planet for such a time as this. We understand, Lord, that you've given us the abilities and you've made yourself available to us to guide us and to strengthen us as we go through. And Father, tonight, Lord, I pray, Lord, that you would strengthen each one of us. Give us the determination and the heart that we need to finish what we start. When it's all done, Father, we'd like to be like Paul and say, I fought a good fight. I finished my course. I've kept the faith. Father, we ask that you continue to give us your vision. Lord, that you continue to speak to us as we go forth from this place. Now and forever, in the one and precious name.